I'm just like, aesthetically speaking. Start now.
Hello there, and welcome back to Aesthetically Speaking, the podcast where we casually talk about all things aesthetics to help patients and providers just get a better understanding on different treatments and trends within the industry. I wanted to thank everyone for all of the positive feedback after my maiden voyage. But before we dive into today's topic, I did want to quickly circle back to the first episode, which was all about CO2 and laser resurfacing treatments. I did get a great listener question about using different spot sizes and if it's going to affect the efficacy of a treatment. Carissa and I had mentioned that I tend to like a smaller spot size around the eye or just when someone's uncomfortable. This is just my little clinical pearl. So the reason why I like using a smaller spot size can make a huge difference just in patient comfort and precision, especially in such a delicate area. It's one of those small tweaks that can really elevate the overall experience and the results for your patient. So obviously you want to check on the settings of your specific device, but generally with a CO2 laser, when you are only changing your spot size, this is not going to have an impact on the energy delivery. So for example, if I'm treating using 60 millijoules with an 18 millimeter spot size, that pulse is going to last about a second or two to cover the entire 18 millimeters and can become very uncomfortable. Whereas I can still treat with 60 millijoules with just a 4 or 8 millimeter spot size, and that entire pulse just lasts a fraction of a second. That being said, it might take me a couple more pulses to treat the entire area, but being so small, my patient's able to tolerate it very well without sacrificing the energy that I'd like to deliver. So thanks so much for the question. I hope that clears things up for you. And let's get into this next episode. This woman has over 2 decades in aesthetics. She has began as an esthetician, built a career that spans medical spas, dermatology, plastic surgery. She holds a bachelor's degree in business, a master's in nursing education, and a doctorate in nursing. Blending clinical experience and a deep understanding of the industry, she has basically done everything from being a former med spa owner, being a longtime clinical educator and consultant. She's also passionate about helping patients look and feel their best while mentoring fellow professionals through personalized, innovative care. Today, she's here to shed some light on one of the biggest questions that I've encountered in aesthetics with patients: energy-based devices and injectables. Which one should I do first and why? So I'm so happy to introduce our very special guest this episode, Miranda Mogle. Yay!
Hey, I'm so happy to be here with you, Andrew.
Awesome. I'm so happy to have you. I'm so excited. I know we've been talking about this for a while.
Forever.
I know. So now I'm happy that it's finally happening.
Me too.
So obviously, like, I hyped you up because I love you. I think you're amazing. But can you share a little bit just on your journey in aesthetics and like what sparked your passion to kind of get into that?
Yeah. So prior to aesthetics, I was going to be a famous Broadway star.
Love it.
But my dad told me I had to have a marketable skill.
Yeah.
So I actually went to California and needed a job. I began working for these ladies who owned a place called Aesthetics Plus, and they did continuing education for estheticians.
Oh, cool.
And they cleared up my face. I had gotten acne when I was about 19. I was okay in high school, but then just totally broke out all over my face, cystic acne. And they used me as a model in their continuing ed for a lot of their classes. And to be able to go from not wanting to like look at myself in the mirror because I was disgusted with my skin to like thinking I was hot again. It was just like that getting my confidence back.
Yeah, totally.
And when I got my confidence back, I thought, wow, I could really do this for other people because it's life-changing. So
awesome. I love that.
That began my journey.
Yeah. Oh, great. So, I mean, a little bit about this episode, and one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to have you especially do this one with me. I mean, you just as well as I am very familiar with energy-based devices. I always get that question of, well, should I do a laser? Should I do RF microneedling? Should I just get Botox?
Right.
I mean, when you have that person come into the room, why do you think that that's such a frequently asked question?
Honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with marketing, right? People are like, oh, look at this person. They had filler and they look,
Yeah.
20 years younger later. Well, they had 2 pounds of filler put in their face.
Right.
So the average person, at least where I live, is not going to be able to necessarily afford those costs. Um, and the biggest thing I think that I see is that people want something fast, and filler is fast. But really, having been in the skin business for so long, I just hate to see somebody with a nice full face with terrible skin draped on top of it. So that's why I love combining the two. And often I start with energy based devices because you've got to build that foundation.
Yeah. Now when I do my consultations, I always tend to say that my energy-based devices usually will come first because I mean there's two things I always say to people. One is healthy skin yields better results every single time. So
Yes.
if we're improving the quality of somebody's skin, like you said, that we're laying like that foundation a little bit better. But also the other thing is when you're improving the skin quality, you're only going to get a nicer improvement from something else. So for example, when somebody gets Botox done, obviously you're relaxing that wrinkle, but if that wrinkle was there at rest, they get their Botox done first, maybe a couple weeks later they come in, and then we start some laser treatments, because now that you're not forcing that wrinkle to become worse, I can then start to soften it. So there's those two sides where, like you said, like a lot of times you start out with an energy-based device or you might follow it up. So that's where I feel like so many people have that dilemma of what to do first. And I think it really depends on what concern they're mostly needing. So if you're talking filler, yeah, I think filler, you generally need to do your energy-based devices first. With Botox, I don't know. It can kind of go either way. What do you think?
I 100% agree. So,
Okay.
the thing that I love about talks is exactly what you said. It takes a couple weeks to kick in, but it's something that you can get started in the process, and then you'll be able to build that better skin integrity because you've stopped the problem. Um, Oftentimes, I'll do talks and energy based devices in the same day. I
Yeah.
just do the energy based device first, let them cool a little bit, and then do the tox because we're injecting in the muscle and we're doing the energy based device in the skin. But I agree 100%. Tox, you can sprinkle that in at any time, essentially. If they come to you and they've already had an energy based device and they want tox, it's only going to improve their results. But definitely filler, I'm usually, depending on the circumstance, but usually I'm recommending that they build that skin integrity because oftentimes they can then have less filler put in the long run.
Right. Yeah. I mean, especially because a lot, depending on the energy-based device, I mean, we're building up that collagen and almost like thickening up the dermis. So we're revolumizing a face. So you, like you said, you may not need as much. But being that you are such a smarty pants, can you break down kind of like the primary benefits of overall like laser and energy-based devices and how they're transforming the skin quality for us?
Absolutely. So you already mentioned the collagen and elastin factor. So do you want me to get super nerdy for a
Yeah,
second?
sure. I love that. You know, I love the nerd stuff.
I know you do. So when we're dealing with energy-based devices, we're dealing with our target, which is called a chromophore. So a chromophore is the biological component that we are attempting to essentially destroy with our energy-based device. And when we are doing that, we're targeting usually 4 specific things. I would say 5 now because we now can target sebum, oil for those acne lasers. But generally, it's water, it's oxyhemoglobin, deoxyhemoglobin, or melanin. So when we're talking about skin rejuvenation and building that foundation, stimulating collagen, we're talking about energy-based devices that target water. When we heat the water in the skin senses that injury. Essentially, we're doing a controlled injury. Says, uh-oh, something's going on here. Sends in the fibroblasts, my favorites. They are the cells that produce collagen and elastin. So they help us have that youthful glow. Plump our skin back up, smooth fine lines, thicken our dermis, just bring back that youth. But another very important component to energy-based devices are those that target things that make our skin tone uneven. So when we're looking at skin tone, we're talking about melanin and hemoglobin.
So like the reds and browns, right?
Reds and browns, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So melanin would be for those pigmented spots, sunspots, age spots, all the all the things that make your skin tone uneven in the brown aspect. And then the hemoglobin, which is the color in the blood, essentially, is when we get red. So flushing, facial veins, that annoying vein by everybody's eye that we all want to get rid of.
Yep.
We can target
got mine
those.
lasered a couple weeks ago.
I need to come and have you do mine.
Let's do it.
Love it.
Nice. So, I mean, overall, if we're doing all of those things, why do people even want filler? Meaning, like, how does that approach differ in skin rejuvenation?
Sure. So when we're dealing with energy-based devices, for the most part, I guess if you're talking about some of the ultrasound type devices, you are going a little bit deeper. But for the most part, you are in the skin, and our skin is layered. And so we've got the layers of the skin, and then we've got our little fatty layer, and then we've got our connective tissue, muscle, and bone. Well, as we age, not only does our skin quality decline, so our skin starts getting thinner, more likely to wrinkle, our fat pads start to sink. So we've got these 3 fat pads in our face. And, when we are young and youthful, our cheeks are all the way up near our eyes. And then as we age, they start to sink down and they become nasolabial folds. And then on top of that, our bones start to decline.
I know.
And our eye hollows get bigger, and our cheekbones get smaller, and our jaws get smaller. So we're losing the structure under the skin as well. And that's where fillers really shine. They come in and they help restore that volume loss that comes from those basic structures kind of starting to decline as we age.
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, I feel like in general, and correct me if I'm wrong, with filler specifically, we're mainly trying to improve the bone and fat / muscle loss, even though we're not obviously replacing muscle. We're just trying to replace the structure that's there.
Correct. That is very correct. We're not replacing anything that's gone. However, there are more studies coming out about some of the biostimulators. So, for example, the calcium hydroxyapatite, which is commonly known here in the U.S. as Radius, it is actually a bone-like substance. And don't quote me, but there was a study not too long ago, a few that I have read, where it's actually showing that not only is that calcium hydroxyapatite helping to stimulate collagen growth in our skin, but also helping to enhance our bone structure or revitalize some of that bone growth as well. So, there's always something new to learn about this field. So we're not replacing the bone by any means, but we are kind of shoring it up when we're doing some of those things like biostimulators.
Now, do you have a preference when you're doing filler as far as like the ones that are biostimulators versus like the HA-based fillers?
I don't really have a preference. It depends on the person, and a lot of times a little bit of both is what's needed. If they're like mid 40s and beyond, almost all of us can use a little bit of an extra like oomph for the biostimulators. But if I'm trying to shape, then I'm going to use more of an HA filler because I can really kind of I can mold, it's like you're like a sculptor. When you're thinking about biostimulators, for example, Sculptra, the PLLA, that one, I'm really not going to mold or shape with that. I'm just going to restore volume. Radius is a little bit different because I can hyper dilute it and use it similarly to Sculptra, where I'm just restoring volume, or I can use it in its thicker form and actually really start to build and shape on some of those more bony areas. I would never put that strong of a filler in an area that's pliable. So you're not going to put it like in the mouth area,
where everything's moving. Yeah. So just to rewind a little bit for some of our viewers or listeners rather, that don't know all of the words that we're talking about. So lasers overall, I just want to emphasize the contrast. Lasers equal basically skin quality. So our texture, our tone, our collagen stimulation, and our filler and in other injectables are generally going to be like our volume and our shape and our structure. So think of that when you're going into those appointments to visit your provider. They may recommend both things. And that's why is because a lot of us come in and say, oh, I'm so hollow over here, or I have a lot of brown spots all over my face or around my eye, or I have the veins over here. So that's why we want to make sure that you are kind of doing both, depending on what the need is.
Yes. And then don't forget the neuromodulators, the tox. So the
Yes.
tox then stops muscle movement, which helps with dynamic lines for the most part. We're using it also a little bit for, it's basically an opposite thing, right? So
Mhm.
your platysmal bands, your neck muscles pull down, you inject those, they can't pull down anymore. You get a little bit of a snatch
Yeah.
in your jawline.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
this makes me think of something that happened this week with me.
Okay.
I had these two
Tell me about
ladies
it.
come in for a Botox consultation, and they were in their mid 70s, and they wanted Botox because of a couple of things: under eye bags and sagging facial skin in the lower face. So that was a great educational moment for me because Botox isn't going to address any
No,
of
not at all. I was going to say, you didn't do that, right? So,
that. No, we didn't. And although they both did have static lines that had once been dynamic lines in their forehead, so they had those lines from moving, but they were there not at movement, they were there at rest. I actually ended up referring them both to plastic surgery for consultation because we could build their skin integrity with energy-based devices, but when you have so much laxity in your skin, when I see people come in and pull up, like I want my skin up, that's
a
surgery.
facelift. Yeah. I find that a lot. I do see a lot of patients coming in and they are, I'll say a little bit more mature. And they'll say, I think it's about time I start doing Botox or something. And not that I need people starting Botox in their 20s. I mean, I started when I was 28, 29.
25 here.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a little late at that point to be preventative or improve a lot of and get the improvement that they're looking for. And that's why, like you said, when they kind of pull their face a little tighter, Botox isn't going to do anything for that at that point. So it's always important when you go in for that consultation, have realistic expectations, but make sure you have a provider like Miranda where they're going to let you know, hey, you know what I could do for you today will help, but it's probably not going to give you the improvement that you're looking for. You should probably go see this surgeon at this point.
Yeah. And that's so important. This industry has blown up and there are so many people out there just trying to make a dollar or who think they're in it because it's glamorous or whatever. First of all, it's not glamorous.
Not at all.
But, they like the idea of being a nurse injector or whatever it may be. And they just want to fill everybody's faces with whatever they have because it's what they have rather than really like, this is a patient. This is healthcare. You're in charge of their health, their skin health, and you're doing them a disservice if you're offering something to them without having those candid conversations about what effect they're actually going to get from it.
Right. Now, how does, as far as the collagen stimulation aspect of it goes, because a lot of what I talk about with my patients and just overall, just because I do a lot of energy-based devices, is that collagen elastin stimulation. So how do you think that boosting the collagen with laser treatments or other energy-based devices potentially reduces the amount of filler that somebody's going to need?
So fillers, again, are restoring volume. And we really talked about how we can use them to help when we're starting to, lose our fat pads in our bone. But we're also injecting them dermally. So we are injecting them into the skin at some points or just under the skin. And there's a couple ways that they can help with that kind of collagen boosting. So when we are using lasers to boost collagen, we're thickening that dermis. We're, making our skin cells nice and fluffy again. But especially some of the biostimulators can actually help build collagen as well. And then the hyaluronic acid ones, which are the more temporary ones, the ones that we're all used to, hearing about putting in lips and faces and that. Hyaluronic acid is something that your body makes naturally. It's in your skin. So it all pairs very well together. And depending on your target with filler, you might not be revolumizing. You might be doing a more superficial filler to fill in like lines. But if you've had the energy-based devices, you're going to have fewer lines. So, they just play really well together. So I always think, what's going to make this less expensive for my patient and fewer appointments for my patient? Because honestly, that's what people want, right? They want to get whatever they can have done in the shortest amount of time at the least cost to them
That's going to
with
last
the
the
best
longest.
outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to
Yeah.
last the longest. So
Yeah.
really, if you start building that skin integrity first, it
Mhm.
takes collagen to build collagen. So if you
Right.
start boosting that collagen and then you add in some of those fillers and those biostimulators, those things that also help boost collagen, it's only going to be better, and it's going to have a better result because you've already started that collagen production by starting with those energy-based devices.
Now, how long would you generally wait? I mean, obviously, depending on the type of injectable that you're doing, sometimes, I mean, you could, like you said, you can do it immediately after their appointment, or they're going to have to wait maybe a couple weeks, or who knows, a couple months. Now, when you are talking to somebody, if they're doing something that takes a lot longer to build that collagen production, like multiple sessions of an RF microneedling or ultrasound device or something like that, now, how long would you suggest your patient waits before they get any filler?
So I usually, if I'm doing like a combo treatment where I'm doing a series of an energy-based device,
Mhm.
and we've had the filler discussion as well, and they're in on the plan, they're going to do both.
Mhm.
I will always start with the energy-based device, and I might do 1 or 2 treatments of that, depending on how much collagen they need, and depending on
Mhm.
their skin integrity already, and then sprinkle filler in before my last treatment, or sprinkle it in between my first and second treatment, because they're going to play well together. So you're kind of boosting that collagen, you pop a little filler in, you're boosting the collagen again,
Yeah.
and then, they kind of go through
Yeah.
the process all.
Yeah. Now, what about some of those biostimulators already? Like, would you go much closer to that energy-based device? Because a lot of those too sometimes like the heat, right?
Yeah, so I have no problem with doing like a sculpture on the same day as an
Mhm.
RF microneedling or CO2. And actually, one of my favorite things to do that I've been doing quite a bit of lately is using a biostimulator, using something like Sculptra on top of an energy-based device that targets water. So my favorite's the 1927 nanometer,
Mhm.
Laser D Ultra, Moxie, whichever one you have. Um, it because it targets water and it sits right there kind of superficially in the skin where when it lands, it's almost like a little sponge just waiting
Mm.
to draw that biostimulator into the tissue and distribute it nicely. So you don't have to inject biostimulators. That's the amazing thing. You can
Yeah.
actually put them on top of the skin after you've created little wounds for it to come in. I'm going to just say this caveat. There have been a couple of studies out recently on this. And to the best of my recollection, the 1927, so the thuliums, and the erbiums, the 2940s, are the best for creating the right like garden bed for that
Oh,
sculpture to be accepted.
you have that. Send me that. I'd love to read it.
Yeah.
That sounds super
I
interesting.
think there were maybe two that were presented a couple years ago at Aslam, so I'll find them for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I mean, you're going next week though too,
Oh
right?
yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll see you there.
Yay.
Speaking of, because last episode that we just did, I talked about a lot of CO2 treatments.
Mhm.
You just had one done too, from what I remember. Your skin looks amazing, and I feel like you just had it done.
I did. It's been a little over 2 weeks. So it was 2
Oh,
weeks on
wow.
Tuesday, and today's Sunday. So it'll be 3 weeks soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was pretty hefty from what I saw.
It
So, I
was.
mean, how is, did you do any type of biostimulator with that treatment, or you just did your energy-based device that time?
I just did my energy-based device, but I attribute my fast healing time to my post-care. So that's
Nice.
we haven't even touched on
Yes.
skincare.
No, we haven't. Yeah. That's a whole
That's a
other
whole
day.
nother episode.
But yeah. But yeah, we like what I actually did the last episode with Carissa McCormick, who you know as
Love
well.
her, yes.
And we talked about a lot of that stuff, and she attributed a lot of her recovery as well to post care. So that is definitely one thing that I have to make a whole episode about, because any device that we're doing, or any treatment that we're doing for that matter, your post care is just as important as your prep care.
If not more so.
If not more. Yeah, exactly. If not more.
Yeah. I actually had sidebar here.
No, you have.
She's actually a former colleague. We used to work together, and I hadn't seen her in probably 10 years. And it had to be before 2011. I did an aggressive CO2 on her, and she had that typical, 2 to 3 weeks of just raw, gross skin. She came to me maybe 3 or 4 years ago for another CO2. And so it, had been at least 10 years in between. And she called me 2 days later and said, I don't think we were aggressive enough because my skin looks good already. She's like, I don't have the downtime I had. I'm like,
Yeah.
look at the product.
Yeah.
Like, look at what you're
Yeah.
using to care for your
Yeah.
skin now.
Yeah. It's way different.
Yeah, she thought the treatment wasn't as good because her skin didn't have the downtime that we were used to back in the day.
Yeah. Now, with your, like you said, that 1927 or the 2940s tend to do really well with kind of like laying the garden for your biostimulators. Now, do you think that you agree with that statement with more ablative wavelengths like a CO2 with 10,600? I mean, obviously 2940 is going to be pretty hefty as well for people. But is that safe enough for somebody to do with the CO2 as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And there were, in at least one of those studies, they did also compare it with CO2, which did do a
Okay.
great job of the laser assisted drug delivery, just not quite as good as the other two. And if I recall correctly, it's because I think they contributed or attributed it a little bit to the carbonization. So, with the erbium and the thulium, you are just getting vaporization, and then you have coagulation with the thulium. With the CO2, you have a lot going on. You're getting vaporization, you're getting carbonization, you're getting coagulation, and then some thermal damage kind of on the edge of that little wound.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe the carbonization made it a little harder for that product to be drawn in.
Oh, okay.
And they also did
That makes sense.
with RF microneedling in the study as well. And just like with regular microneedling, I think the reason that it didn't absorb as well is because you don't have that vaporization. So you've got the skin, the cellular fluid kind of pushing back out.
Yeah.
So you don't get as much absorption. So it was really just those two, the way that the skin is left after an erbium or
almost
a
like
thulium.
perforated like a sponge kind of.
Yeah, just like waiting to absorb.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Nice. Good to know.
Yeah.
Now, as far as like those lighter treatments, like laser toning, maybe with like a 1064 nanometer or something like that, how does that kind of help maintain youthful skin over the long term? Is it worth doing with those injectables or in tandem with them? Because a lot of people, I mean, I see people all the time where it's kind of like go big or go home. They want to get that super aggressive treatment done because they want to have that treatment finished, have their result, and not have to come back and do another one. Now, is there a benefit to doing those much lighter treatments with your injectables?
Absolutely. Actually, I think laser toning is the most underutilized, least appreciated,
Oh my God.
like amazing for your skin treatment.
I say it all the time. Whenever I do a training and we're talking about laser toning, I'm like, if you're not doing this, you're leaving so much money on the table and you're underutilizing a device that can do so much for you.
Yes, yes. It's just so good. So with laser toning, we're not coagulating. We're not damaging the tissue to the extent
We're just
that
kind
it
of
has to be replaced.
heating up the water a little bit.
Yeah, you're just denaturing that collagen a little bit. So it's still an injury, but it's not as intensive an injury. And it really is just for long-term skin health, the best thing you can do. And I would love, I'm going to do this. Mark my words, hold me to it. I'm going to find someone who has done absolutely nothing else, and I'm going to do laser toning on them for a year. I'll figure out. I might do
schedule.
I might do like once every other week for 6 weeks, and then like once a month or once every. I don't know. I'll figure that out. Yeah. But just doing that does so much for your overall skin health. It's like brushing your teeth. I would say this with skincare, but now I'm thinking about it with laser toning. You don't go to the dentist twice a year and call it good. The reason you don't have cavities is what you do at home every day. Laser toning, I think, is kind of on that level. It's something where you could do it every other week for the rest of your life if you wanted to. And it's just going to build that collagen, and it's going to build that skin health overall. It's not going to give you the wow factor. You're not going to do a one and done treatment, but for your overall skin health, it really is like, it's like your workout for your skin. You work out so that your muscles break down so that they rebuild. This is your face workout, your laser toning.
Awesome. 100%. I totally agree that. And for me, I'm a baby and I feel like everything hurts. And that's
Same.
like the one treatment that feels good. I mean, it literally feels like you're laying out on the beach in Turks and Caicos with under very hot sun, but it's a comfortable treatment and it should be a comfortable treatment. And I mean, I've used it for redness and rosacea. I've used it for pore size and wrinkles and all that kind of stuff. So
Acne.
yeah, acne, absolutely. I
Mhm.
think that it's so underutilized, but I think that you're onto something there with if you're consistently doing that and introducing that into your regimen as a regular thing. I mean, you probably don't necessarily need to do, again, as much filler, as much Botox, but sprinkle those treatments in with something like that. And I mean, I think that's a home run for most people.
I agree, especially if you're starting younger. If you don't have a lot to correct, if you're in your 30s or 40s and you
Mhm.
just want to start building your skin health, starting on a laser toning regimen is really it's going to do it for you.
So, what's your advice on when someone's coming in, a patient coming in, as a professional, using that consultation and crafting like a personalized plan with energy-based devices to complement their injectable? So if you're an injectable nurse, or injectable MD, PA, how would you say, okay, this person is coming to me for XYZ filler. What can I do to bring them on that plan of an energy-based device and kind of get them on board with that as well?
Sure. I mean, for me, it's all about education, and I really do think that patients, for the most part, appreciate it. It's telling them why this is why you need these energy-based devices. I can do so much with the filler, and okay, you have a big event coming up. You want your, forehead to be smooth. You want your lips to be a little plumper. We can go ahead and start with your filler today, but for your overall skin health and maintenance, you really need to get on an energy-based device plan. I cannot stress enough the importance of a consultation. And you mentioned a treatment plan. I love to have a treatment plan. I wish I could attribute this to whoever I saw it at whatever conference, but I don't know where I got this from. It was a conference, and they had. I go to a lot of conferences. It had a little triangle like the food pyramid, and it has like your daily, weekly, monthly,
I've
annually.
seen something similar. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah.
adapted something like that. And so we can talk about, here's your daily stuff. Here's your daily skincare, your at home devices. But then weekly, you need to be doing, a little more. Monthly is when we're doing our laser treatments, our laser toning, our skin rejuvenations, where we're
Mhm.
treating our reds and our browns. And then quarterly, we might be doing a little more aggressive or some RF microneedling. Annually, we might be doing a little CO2, and then we're putting our filler in there too, right? And our Botox is
Mhm.
quarterly, and our filler might be twice a year. So you can kind of build it and show them in this little pyramid. But it says like, your top three concerns and then what your next
Mhm.
appointment is, and just kind of laying it all out there visually for them and then giving them
Mhm.
a paper to take home so that they know the next steps in their plan, because people forget.
Oh,
You
oh,
tell them it's
totally.
going to take 6 weeks before you start to see any improvement with this. And then, next treatment, they're like, I don't know if it did anything.
Right,
Well,
exactly. I
so
mean, I always show this one picture when I do a training. It's this woman that I did, and we, I did IPL with a 1927 on top of it in the same treatment.
love that.
It looks incredible. I'll have to show you the picture. I think I may have in the past, but she came in and she was like, I think I look worse. And I showed I showed her the pictures, and I mean there it's undeniable. I mean it's night and day different. And she was like, okay, I guess there's a little bit of a difference.
Oh
I
my
mean, sure, there's it's a lot of a difference,
God.
but the point is that's why those pictures are so important, and you have to educate them because of the fact that you are looking at yourself every single day, so you may not see that difference immediately, and as you progress throughout that treatment plan, you're going to see a big difference, but you're going to forget what you look like.
Yep.
So
100%. That's the exact same conversation I have. I'm like, you look at yourself
yeah,
every day. You're going to come in here and be like, I'm not sure it did much. I'm going to show you your before picture and you're going to go, oh my God, I didn't realize how bad I looked.
right.
You know?
Right. right?
And then
Now,
what you'll
and
also see, sorry,
no,
is
you're fine.
friends, family, people, at least when I'm doing treatment, because I don't want anyone to look done. I'll tell them, people will ask you, like, if you did something to your hair. I had a girlfriend of mine, I did a little cheek filler on, and she said, one of her work coworkers said, "Did you get a new blush? I really like that." It's like it shouldn't be noticeable. I had a woman
Right.
who
Yeah.
did her lips, and she said, "My husband asked me if I got a facial, and he said he liked it."
Yeah. I know it kills me,
Yeah.
but it's that those are exactly the things that you want to hear from people is like, you look great. Did you get your hair done? Did you get like a new lip color or
Yeah.
whatever the case is, without them saying like, did you get your lips done?
Right.
Because as we kind of move away, I think, from the late 90s and early 2000s, I think that a lot of people
The
want
Kardashian
more of that.
pandemic.
Yeah, more of that natural looking look.
Yeah.
And I mean, even them, I mean, the Kardashians are
Gorgeous.
starting to look, they're gorgeous. They're starting to look more natural than they were,
Right.
is my point. Is they kind of had a look for a while. And now, I mean, they all look incredible, obviously.
Yeah.
But I like the way that they talk about some of their treatments now is more about I don't want to say production of collagen, but it's
building that skin
preserving.
health.
Yeah, it's building the skin health versus just saying like, oh, we did this surgery or filler or whatever the case may be.
Right. I wanted big lips. I wanted, big cheeks or what. It was all about big. Bigger is better.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now it's more natural and preserving.
Yeah, preserving.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, too, when people come in, a lot of the stuff that I like talking about is both for provider and for patient
Mhm.
in this. So when a patient comes in and they say, I want a laser. I mean, there's so many different lasers, like we talked about. There's some that are attracted to water. There's some that are attracted to oxyhemoglobin, deoxyhemoglobin, melanin. Now, when they come in and they have no idea, it might just be their friend. Like I had a woman that came in and she said, oh, it was a 1927 laser. And she said, oh, this is the laser that I want. And I said, but what's your concern? And she said, I have all this rosacea. And I said, well, that's not going to do anything for that. And she said, but that's what my friend had. And I said, I know, but your friend had a completely different
Does your friend take heart
issue
medication or,
right.
like you
Right.
don't do all the things that your friend had. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, how do you approach a client, I should say, when they come in seeing something that they may have seen on social media or something that a friend had done or something like that, where they're saying, this is what I want, and you really don't want to do it.
Right. It's education. I will
Yeah.
tell them, I don't know your friend, or maybe I do. Maybe I did their friend.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I still can't talk about their friend with, HIPAA.
Right.
So
of course, HIPAA.
when we choose what treatments we're going to do, we choose them based on your concerns and what device will best address your concerns. So I just educate them on why, what the device does that they're wanting and why another device might be better for them. I really think that people want to know, they want to learn. And as a patient, if you walk in to somebody's office and you're asking for, X device that you saw on TikTok or whatever.
TikTok, wherever, yeah.
If your practitioner can't explain to you what that device does, how it does it, and how it's going to benefit you, that's a little bit of a red flag to me.
Mhm.
They should not be just telling you, well, this is going to make your skin better. This is going to tighten your skin. I hate the word tighten. I use it
Yeah, I
sometimes,
know.
but I hate the word tighten.
Same. I get it.
Nothing really.
It's
tightens.
one of those marketing terms that I get
Yeah.
that that's what people use. But for me, one of my biggest things when I say stuff about RF microneedling, for example, when I do a training, people say, oh, skin tightening. And I'm like, it doesn't quite do that.
Right.
It will stimulate collagen elastin, giving you a firmer, tighter, smoother looking skin, but we're essentially revolumizing that dermis a little bit more.
Exactly.
So skin tightening, I would say probably, in my opinion, the only device really that's going to do that is like a CO2, because you're physically getting rid of skin. You're it's vaporizing that tissue. You have nothing left. It has to pull shut. So
Yep.
you're really getting some tightening that way. But other than that, there's not a lot of devices that truly tighten.
Right. Yeah, maybe the new one, the microcoring. It's newer.
Oh yeah, probably that.
Yeah.
Now, but again, you're physically removing skin.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
there you go.
Just like in a surgery, you're physically
Right,
removing skin.
those non-ablative or treatments with minimal to no downtime where you're really not removing skin are not tightening skin. They're collagen stimulating and stuff like that.
Yes.
But my point behind what we just talked about is on the provider side, you should always be that provider that is giving them that education on that specific treatment, because I do have people that come in and say, this is the treatment that I want because this is what I saw, and it may not be right for them. So always educate them on what the best outcome for what they want is going to be. And then on a patient side, like you said, it should be a red flag if your provider's not doing that.
Yeah.
I understand that people like what they like and they see something and they want what everybody else had, but you may not have that exact concern. So always make sure that you both, as the provider and as the patient, you're always doing what's best for the patient equally.
Right.
You know.
And I think it's important too to identify like the patient's main concerns. You know, if they come in and they're just set on, Botox to plump their lips.
Right. Which happens all the time.
Right. Botox won't plump your lips, just so you know.
By the way.
By the way. It's all about, well, what bothers you? Like, why do you want your lips plumped? Oh, well, my this. And, well, maybe that's not, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's finding out, getting to the root of their concern and then giving them the offerings as a provider that will best address that concern. And if you don't have it, if you can't address it, you should be building relationships with others. Like the whole aesthetic competition thing, if you're still doing it, it's over.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
We're all
There's enough for
collaborating now.
everybody.
There are enough people, enough faces for everyone. I send people to other providers all the time. I'm like, oh, you need to go see this person. They have this device. It's going to be the best one for you. I don't have that device at this office. I work at a couple different offices right now. So, and they're like 80 miles apart from each other. So I'm always cool recommending someone to someone else if I can't give them what's going to be best for them.
Yeah. Now, I'm glad that you brought that up about Botox plumping your lips. So as far as injectables go, can you talk a little bit about like your toxes? Which facial areas benefit the best for those, and then filler, which areas benefit the best with those?
Yes. So it used to be very cut and dry because, we only did Botox on the upper face. So that's traditional. Botox is a neuromodulator, and we'll just do a little quick science here. So when your brain sends a signal to the muscle to move, it sends a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. And the acetylcholine sits in the receptor of the muscle, and it tells the muscle to move. When you inject a neuromodulator like Botox, Dysport, Daxxify, Xeomin, Jeuveau, Lativo, who knows what's going to come out next, that modulator sits in the receptor instead. So when the brain sends the signal, the muscle isn't getting the message because there's nowhere for that acetylcholine to go. So it stops movement. So traditionally with tox, we're treating dynamic lines, so lines that are made when you move. So traditionally the upper face is where we do it, between the brows, across the forehead, crow's feet. However, in the past, 5-10 years, we've come up with more and more ways to use neuromodulators. So if you think about the principle of it, a neuromodulator is going to stop muscle movement. So if you inject it in a muscle that moves one direction, it's going to keep it from moving in that direction. So I mentioned the platysma earlier.
Right.
The Nefertiti lift is what it's called, where you inject, because these muscles come and they kind of bind superficially right up here. So you can kind of eject along the line and then, mine are starting to come back, like in the bands themselves. And that'll give you a little bit of almost a lift right here because you're not pulling down anymore. Again, my whole face is toxed, so it's hard for me to do these movements. But that frowny face that you make, you have oral depressors here, so a muscle that pulls down. So you inject that, and then it just curls up the sides of your mouth a little bit. You can
I
also
need
do,
some of that.
I know, I have it. You do, I'll do it. Do that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can use some.
I know. It's like that RBF.
It is. Don't I look much happier than I used
You
to?
do. You look so much happier than you used to.
Chin, if they pull, a lot of people are putting filler in chin to
Hmm.
elongate that
Yeah.
for facial balancing. I think a
Hmm.
key part of facial balancing, because a lot of people that have that more recessed chin also tend to pull here when they're talking. And so
Hmm.
you'd inject a little tox into the chin and it stops that from pulling up.
From happening, and
Yeah.
it
So like I
pulls
can't
down
make
more.
that walnut chin. I'm trying, I can't do it. And so that actually helps with that facial balancing as well. So you're relaxing the muscle, and you can add filler too to enhance it depending on how much you need, but sometimes just a little bit of tox. The other thing is we're seeing it more as like a skin booster. I love a little microtox. So you hyper dilute it, and then you do
Hmm.
little, very, very superficial blebs actually into the skin, and it will helps with pore size. It actually helps with rosacea as well. So there are a lot more uses for tox nowadays than the traditional, forehead frown line crow's feet.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Now, what about filler? As far as filler goes, because same thing, people will say, "Oh, I need a little filler here," and I'm like, You don't want to put it right in your forehead."
Right. Yeah. And
But where generally is the best places that you find for filler?
so I like to use filler for restoring volume. So cheeks are probably one of my favorite things to do. A lot of
Hmm.
people come to you and they say, "Oh, I'm tired. I want to do something about these dark circles," which sometimes it is actual, dark circles that need some energy based device. But a lot of times they've lost support here in their mid face. And so it starts to sink and their eyes look sunken in. And if you just put a little bit of mid face filler in, not only does it help smooth out that nasolabial fold, it
Hmm.
helps to support that ligament there and give you that nice youthful look and actually make your under eye area look better. So I think when people are coming in for services, a lot of times it's because they feel like they're looking tired or old. So if we can brighten
Hmm.
up the face, mid face with a little bit of filler, sometimes I'll put a little bit out here to help kind of support the edges too and just give that appearance of a little bit of a lift. We're really not lifting, but when you start to restore that volume in the area,
Right.
it'll give that appearance.
Yeah. Now, that being said, I feel like back in the day, um, the big thing was to do the filler
Yeah,
in
the
the
nasal.
nasolabial
Yeah.
folds. Now, I would say probably the last 10 years or so, that's I don't want to say been debunked, but like pretty much you shouldn't be putting filler there
Right.
anymore.
Let's just say it's fallen out of fashion. Because
Yes.
before it was, oh, look, there's a line. Let's fill it in. Well, if you
Hmm.
fill in this and this is the problem, then you're just going to look like a monkey. You're
Right.
going to get that Homer
Right.
Simpson look. So
Yeah.
by filling the areas that are contributing to that, you actually can smooth that out. That being said, if somebody has a very superficial line there, I will go in and fill the actual line with a very superficial, but usually that's after we've addressed the volume.
Done everything
Yeah.
else, right? Yeah. The actual loss of where it's stemming from,
Yes.
essentially.
Yeah. And you have to be
I see.
careful. Only certain fillers you can put superficially. A lot of
Hmm.
them will give what's called the Tyndall effect if you're too superficial and you get kind of a
Hmm.
bluish gray hue that you can see under the skin.
Hmm.
Um,
That happens a lot when people do that under the eye area,
yep, that's
correct?
the most common area that you see it. And then it just
Hmm.
makes it look worse.
Right. Now, speaking of your expertise, do you have a little time to share just like a quick success story of a patient that was, I guess, either an amazing transformation or just somebody that you remember being so excited when you were finished with their treatment plan of energy plus injectable?
Oh, okay. So there's so many. Let me think of who would be the best.
Obviously, no names,
I
HIPAA.
know, no names. Okay, so I did have a woman come to me. She was in her mid 50s, and she had quite a lot going on. I mean, she looked really great for her age. Um, you know,
Hmm.
nothing extra to correct, but she also didn't look like younger for her age either. She was like a skin type 4, so more tanned type of a skin, more olivey tone. She had some kind of pigmented lesions throughout her face here. She had a little bit of that mid face kind of starting to hollow. And she was starting to get some fine lines, especially around the eyes and stuff, the mouth. Like the sleep lines that are really hard to get rid of. So we, over a period of, she was a long time client. And I want to say it was about 5 years where we had been just, every year we kind of had our annual plan. Like, this is what we're going to do. And she started out with some basic laser. So we did some laser toning. We did some pigment removal, some treatments with the pigment. We did some 1927 thulium for that overall resurfacing. And we also injected a little bit of filler in the mid face. We did some tox in the upper face, a little tox in the chin and in the DAOs. And this was all over a period of I want to say probably 5 years, where she was coming in regularly for laser treatments. And then we were sprinkling in a little filler. She was coming in regularly for tox. And at one of her follow-up appointments, I'm huge on follow-up appointments. You got to at least once a year, especially with your regular clients, just sit down. Where were you? Where are you? Where do you want to be? Let's make a plan to be there. We went back and we looked at her very first photos, and she was 5 years older, but looked 5 years younger than her first photos.
Awesome.
And
That's awesome.
She just she didn't start bawling, but she just started tearing up. She was just I cannot believe, she was so happy. And that's what really gets my heart. That's why I'm in this industry, for people to, it is about looking good, but honestly, it's about feeling good. It's about loving the person that you're seeing in the mirror and just feeling better about yourself.
And I always find too, when you're feeling good, you tend to take better care of yourself health-wise too. So I do think that the two work hand in hand. So that's an awesome story. I love that, especially with the follow-up aspect of it. I think that people don't do that enough. They kind of do these like a series of treatments or a set of treatments, and then they're just kind of done. But when you have this long-standing relationship with people, it's the same thing when I do consulting for places, and I'll go in and I'll talk to them, and they're doing a membership program, which I think are great options for people, especially to be coming in on a regular basis, but also making things more affordable for them. I think it's super important to be taking those milestone pictures where it's not just, oh, let me take this before and after of this one treatment. But like you said, if you've been seeing them on and off for 5 years, have that 6 month or a year follow up where you say, okay, we're doing your pictures. We're going to sit down, see where you were and see where you're currently at. Because I mean, the difference in that alone is huge. Because like we talked about earlier, you're looking at yourself every single day. So you say, oh yeah, my skin looks nice, and Miranda takes care of my skin. And, but then you don't really notice how much of an impact that's made
in the long run
over those 5 years. Yeah, absolutely.
And that really, that's that toning, where laser toning comes in. That's one of those things that you can do that makes that long-term impact. But sitting down and following up with them and letting them see where they've come from, but it also then helps make the plan moving forward. This is where you are, this is where you were. Where do you want to be? What can we do to get you to where you want to be? And if you're happy with where you are and you just want to maintain, we'll talk about maintenance.
What do we do to do that? Yeah, absolutely. And that's the biggest thing too, is a lot of this is maintenance. I mean, everything that we're doing is maintenance only because of the fact that we're aging a day every single day anyway. So it's not like
we're
we
aging
can
a day
say,
every
oh,
single day. Do you say that all the
we
time?
are. I say it all the time. And because it's true. I mean, we age one day every single day. And if you're trying to have me stop the clock, I can't stop the clock, but I can kind of reverse some of the things, but it's still kind of going to progress. So when people say, well, how long does this treatment last? Well, I don't know. What are you doing? So are you going to do other treatments? Are you going to do home care? What is it that you're going to do? And that's why those follow-ups are so important, because not only can we do more for them, but we can also kind of hold those patients accountable for themselves. It's just, it's the same as going to a personal trainer. If you don't go to a personal trainer, except once a month. I mean, sure, they're going to tell you to do this workout and make sure that you're doing this at home. But if you're not doing it at home, what's it going to do?
Right.
So, I mean, we can only do so much with energy-based devices. We can only do so much with injectables. The devices and the I'll say drugs, the things that you're putting into people's bodies, um, do what they say they're going to do. I mean, there's clinical studies to back it up. So when people say like, "Oh, this doesn't work on me," it absolutely does. It may not be to the extent that you're expecting it to, but there also needs to be that accountability for the patient at home as
Yeah.
well, and doing what they're doing every single day. So it's more about like a full package. And I'm a big proponent of combination treatments. Obviously, I know a lot of us in this industry now are moving more towards that as it is, but those combination treatments will give you that full package of benefits, which is why your injectables play a part, your energy-based devices play a part. Now, you used to be an
hmm
esthetician. um do you how much of a believer are you in facials now that you're doing more of the other side of the realm?
So I honestly, I think facials, they have a place, right? Um, Facials are not going to be your end all be all. They're going to help, superficially for a little while. So I love to add a facial in if I'm getting ready for a big event, or if I just need some relaxation and maybe I want to do, just a little boost with a mask or something like that. I personally kind of do all that on my own at home.
Well, right, yeah.
But like for some people, it's more about the pampering aspect. So if you can go and you can get pampered and you can also leave with glowing skin temporarily,
Yeah.
then why not?
Right.
But you can also
Yeah.
do it at home if, I mean,
Yeah.
if
Well, I mean,
not,
if you're
if you're
if
an
you're
esthetician.
capable, yeah, if you're capable.
Yeah.
So that's why, yeah, like I do think that the purpose of skin health and like a deep clean sometimes is needed, obviously, but getting those essential nutrients once a month or once every 3 months or something like that, again, isn't going to do a lot for you. It is that more maintenance type program. So do I love getting a facial? Absolutely. Like I said, it's one of those things where you are improving the skin health, but what you're doing every single day is going to make the biggest impact. And even the estheticians that I work with, they say the same thing. I mean, they love giving facials. They know the importance of a facial, but if someone's only going to do that one facial and not listen to anything else, I mean, what's the
Yeah.
point?
It's more beneficial for someone to buy a good skincare regimen to use
Mhm.
daily than to only get a facial. I mean, ideally, you're going to do both, right? But if you're only going to invest in one thing, invest in good skincare first. I always tell people if you came here and I did absolutely nothing for you, the best thing that you can do for your skin health without buying any products or any services are four things. One, drink water. You should be drinking about a
A hundred
third of your
percent
body weight in water in ounces a day.
Mhm.
Two, get
Minimum,
minimum, right?
minimum.
Daily minimum,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
just before your RF microneedling treatment.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Get your sleep, 7 to 9 hours of sleep. So important for your skin. And I'm not talking about overall health, but of course that's important for overall. Both are important for
hmm
overall health. Don't smoke. Smoking is the absolute worst thing you can do for your skin. It just decreases your circulation. It gives your skin this like gray undertone. I just stop. Uh,
What about all the vaping?
I mean, I don't think vaping is, this is completely anecdotal, as
Yeah,
terrible for your
totally.
skin as tobacco cigarettes. And I think part of
Okay.
that is because you get that like smoke, that carbon on you
Yes.
as you're smoking.
Yeah.
I'm a former smoker. I used to love to
Mhm.
smoke. So
And look
I
how good
get
her
it.
skin looks
I
now.
know, because I quit
She
smoking.
was all gray
It was so
before.
gray. It does. It just dulls
Right.
your skin.
hmm
I am not advocating vaping, but I haven't seen it as dulling. But
hmm
you know, it,
But still don't
but
do
still
it.
don't do it.
Yeah. And what's number 4?
Sunscreen.
Yes, exactly. Sunscreen. There you
Everything
go.
that we're trying to reverse 90% of the things that we're trying to reverse are sun damage, wrinkles, sun damage, sunspots, sun damage, redness, sun damage. Just protect your freaking skin from the sun every day. Wear your sunscreen. You're going to get 8 hours of indirect sunlight anyway. You don't need it for your vitamin D. It doesn't give you vitamin D, first of all. I'm just going to step up on my soapbox here for a second.
Please do.
Sun does not give you vitamin D. You got to get it in your diet, okay? But the sun will help your body to process it into a form that your body can use. So you do need sunlight. I'm not saying avoid the sun. I love to be outdoors, but I wear my sunscreen. I wear my UPF rated clothing. I wear my big hat. Cotton only has an SPF of like 8. So if you're just outdoors, you don't have to be laying out. You can be outside. You don't have to live in a hole, but protect your skin and you're going to have better skin, not just wrinkles, but cancer too, right? Like we don't want skin cancers. Everybody's going to get one eventually. I'm certain, but there are ways to prevent that. So if you can prevent and you can look glowing and you can look, amazing, then do it. And then do your skincare and your devices and your fillers and all of that. But that's like your foundation, Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I'm going to have you step back up on your soapbox too, because I want to know like your top 3 like parting tips for anyone that's deciding between laser and filler.
So parting tips would be, well, one, you're probably going to be best off if you end up doing both in the long run. But number 1, I would say start with laser. You're going to build that strong foundation so that everything else you do is going to be better off. Number 2, don't overfill. If you're getting any kind of filler, you can always add to it. You don't want to look like a plush toy, so start small. I always tell people, like, it is very rare that I'll put more than 1 mil into lips, even if they're big lips, in one session, because then you're risking migration and all kinds of things. I mean, you can migrate anyway, but it's more likely if you're stretching that skin out. So start small and build. You don't have to get all of your filler done in one session. I love to break my filler up into sessions, and that's all part of the planning. We'll start with 1 mil today. We'll divide it between 2 cheeks. That's not going to give you a full correction. But then when you come in next month, we'll add another. So, you don't have to do it all at once. You can build over time. My number 3 tip would be continue to do something. The one and done might give you a dramatic result if you're doing something super aggressive, but in the long term, you're going to be better off doing a lot of things over time and really just building that overall skin health by combining energy-based devices, fillers, neuromodulators, at-home skincare, and sleep, water, no smoking, sun protection.
Awesome. I love it. So how can our listeners either reach out to you or find more about you? Because one thing I did want to again, pat you on the back about is you were just recently published not too long ago.
I was.
So can people read that? Can they read more about you? Where can they find more about you, Miranda?
Yeah, so the article I published was for my DNP project, Identifying Patients at Risk for Melanoma in an Aesthetic Practice. And that was published in the iSpan magazine, the peer-reviewed journal, I should say, not magazine. I am currently at Absolute Aesthetics and Wellness in Springfield, Illinois, and you can find me on Instagram at MJM_aesthetic_NP. I'm pretty sure I have a TikTok.
I know. I'm the worst with all of that.
And I'm working on a website. I'm hoping to have it out in the next couple of months. So I have developed an online training for laser basics. So Laser Nerd website coming to you soon, where you can go and get your basic foundational education about lasers. And then I will also be publishing I do some consulting and stuff too. So laser training, aesthetic consulting, all of that coming up very soon on my website.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we'll have to have you back when you launch that, because that sounds amazing.
I'm so excited. It's going to be so great.
I know. Awesome. Cool. Well, that is a wrap, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today's episode of Aesthetically Speaking. I hope that you found our deep dive into laser versus fillers both enlightening, inspiring, and as always, a huge thank you to the listeners, and an even bigger thank you to my wonderful guest, Miranda Mogle, for sharing all of your expertise and just demystifying overall how to get the most from all of these popular treatments that are out there.
Thank you so much for having me, Andrew. It was such a pleasure to be here. So good to see you too.
Yay. You too. I'll see you
All
soon.
right. See you soon.
All right. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.